The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
That is the biggest camera I think I have ever seen. And for someone that said they work with Fujifilm for the small size factor of the whole thing, look at that, it's a beast.
You're taking the proverbial out of my new GFX.
It's a lovely looking camera, look at it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making a clattering noise. Yeah, it is very nice actually. And
is it really heavy?
Not really.
No,
feel it.
No, I'd say.
I mean,
it's heavier
than
that's probably a 1DX kind of weight.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you'd expect, same size probably as well.
Well, yeah, but when you consider this has got 102 megapixels in it and IBIS and all that kind of stuff, I'm excited by that.
What was the first picture you took with it?
I think it was a picture of a glass of wine.
No, that shows you how things have come along, because usually Kev always used to diligently the first frame you took with a new camera would be a member of your family. It would usually be Albie, or it would be Rosa, or it would be Gemma.
Yeah,
never the dogs.
That's
obviously
true.
Not Monty.
No, not Monty.
No. So there we go. So you took a picture of a glass of wine as your first.
Yeah, probably because it was 1
o'clock.
Bed, I expect. Yeah, when I kind of got out. Yeah, no, I'm really excited by it. It's certainly not a wedding thing or anything, but I've got plans for it, or it's got plans for me, I think, more than anything. Yeah, looks good. Feels good. Takes amazing pictures.
Does it?
Yeah.
No, you take amazing pictures.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's the way it works.
The FujiCast.
So there was people that say, what's that famous phrase? You got a lovely camera. You must get incredible pictures.
Yes.
And the person behind the camera's not too bad either.
No,
roll that one out. Along with the other favourite, whenever you're asked how many pictures you've taken today, photographer, then I always answer 4.5 gallons. Mm-hmm. And you can see the look in their eyes. They're like, oh, that must be photo speak.
Somebody famous once said the most important part of a camera is the 18 inches behind it.
He said that?
That's someone famous. I can't remember, but someone famous. Yeah.
Right, coming up today, you and your questions. Mailbag is, as we said last week, electronically brimming, so thank you for your questions. Keep sending them in to click@fujicast.co.uk. On the question front, by the way, don't just send tech ones in. We love receiving the tech ones, clearly, but also just stuff about how you emotionally connect with photography. They're really important questions and also talking points, so please make sure you send them in. Kev's just playing around with his GFX now. Look, are you interested in today's show at all?
I don't. I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off.
Oh, well, there's the on-off thing there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, look, the lens just retracted.
Yeah,
it's off.
But all of the numbers are staying on the screen.
Right. They do that on the XH1 as well, though. You see the numbers on the top plate. It is off. I'm sure it is. Anyway, if you've emailed before, fantastic. If you've never emailed before, get in there. End of the show, we'll have another one of the photo disasters, so please keep sending those in. There's been some super disaster stories of late. If you've left a review in Apple Podcasts, thank you very, very much. Before we go on, remember to join the private FujiCast group in Facebook. Because it's a really nice community of like-minded guys and girls in there. And today's interview is with the multi-talented, multifaceted Gabrielle Motola, and her work is absolutely superb. And the story, in fact, we're kind of returning to the mental health story with photography with Gabrielle as well. Because as you'll hear in the interview, that plays a part in the interview. So questions. Are you gonna start?
Shall I go first?
Yes,
I've got a quick one from Steve Dika. think. Mm-hmm. Fellas, I've never done street photography before, and as you say in the UK, I want to give it a go. I'm guessing he's not from the UK then. I'll be using my trusty X-T4 and would like to only take one lens. So my question is, which one of the four I own should I start with? And he's got these four lenses: 16mm f1.4, 1024 f4, 1855 f2.824, 55 to 200 f3.5 to 4.8. There's a lot of numbers there, wasn't there? So,
well, you're the street guy, but I know if I was choosing one, I was hoping to hear the 23 was in there, but it's not.
Yeah.
So the closest I get to that is the 10 to 24, which I like that as a lens. It's not the best. It's not the best in the range, is it? But
I'd go 10-24 as well. I mean, the 16-1.4 is your more kind of natural street photography type prime lens combo, I suppose. But you've got more range with the 10-24. Depends how low light you're going to get. 16. I don't like the 16 because it's too wide for me. That's all. Personally, 23 is my go-to focal length, and so the 1024 covers that. Mind you, so does the 1855.
Why would you not go with the 1855?
Yeah, maybe 1855. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, let's go 1855.
Quality of that lens is slightly better.
Hands up if you want 1855. Yeah, 2 hands went up. 1855. Throw all the others in the bin. Well done.
Don't throw the others in the bin. But buy yourself a 23. Yes.
Ching, ching.
Hey, Kev and Neil. Spelled Neile. Obligatory paragraph, not photograph, of how I love the podcast, but Kev's not going to read it anyway. Well, I'm reading this one. I've been binging over the past 3 months, and I'm almost caught up with all episodes. I've been interested in taking up photography as a hobby. It seems a lot of fun. I've been spending the last few months researching cameras, techniques, YouTube, listening to podcasts. That's the best way, isn't it, really? YouTube is full of great ideas. I'm a recent graduate and have a few pennies to my name, so looking for some advice. I own a Nikon F90X that I picked up at a charity shop for 15 quid, and that's been a lot of fun, but I think I'd like to get a digital camera so I can learn without having to spend all my money on film. Before finding the podcast, I decided that the Fuji X system would be a good one to get into. I'm drawn to the X Pro 1 as a first camera so I can change lenses, and it has the optical viewfinder just like my Nikon. Is it worth risking getting a used 80-year-old camera? Have either of you ever bought used kit, or should I get a newer camera that's lower down the range, as it were? Sorry, this is almost a long one. He says, almost done. I don't think either of you have mentioned how you got into photography. Maybe I've not listened to that episode. How did you learn? What cameras did you start with? What made you get into it? Well, we'll hold all those questions for a second. We'll sort of come to each one. Let's start with purchasing a used camera. I'm very happy to have purchased an XH1 as a reconditioned one from the Fujifilm store, and that's been absolutely brilliant. I'm very, very happy with that.
I got a reconditioned X Pro 2 from the Fujifilm store.
Yep. So no problem with that. I mean, it does depend where you buy it from.
Yeah.
Would you be a bit more cautious about buying it from somebody you just don't know on eBay?
I have to say, I wouldn't.
eBay's a great place, but maybe not for a used camera in this particular situation.
I probably wouldn't buy a used camera off eBay if it was something I needed to use it to make money with. I would buy a film camera or a kind of something that I want to use from a hobbyist point of view.
Yeah. What about X Pro 1 as his choice then?
Yeah, I think it's going to be dirt cheap.
Yep.
Still a good camera. It's you will need to, especially if you're coming from different kind of ecosystems, you will probably struggle with the focusing at first with the X Pro 1. If you can stretch to X Pro 2 or even XE ranges, I'd probably think about that, to be honest with you. The X Pro 1 was a beautiful camera, but had its a few little problems in terms of focusing speed and everything. So there are better variants of that going around. But yeah, I mean, depends on budget, doesn't it? Always with these questions, how much money you've got is the answer. Yeah.
Well, I didn't mention his name, by the way. It's Nathan Rees, who is, in brackets, new to photography in Edinburgh. He had another couple of questions. How you got into photography? I mean, I know this is a story well travelled on this show about the wedding photography leap, but let's avoiding that. What about a step before that? How did you get into photography? Was that all part of the same period?
I wasn't. I was never in photography.
Were you never into it?
Never.
You never have a camera before?
Nope.
Oh, right, okay.
Nope.
Oh, wow, you were new.
Actually, that's not quite true. I did have some kind of Canon, something you'd buy from Dixon's going on holiday.
Right.
I don't know what it was called.
Was it a digital one? Or?
Yeah, it was a digital camera. No, it was a film camera.
Was it?
Yeah, I had to put film in it. However, I didn't really use it, and that went with the divorce.
Did it?
Yeah. The first one.
God knows what's on that film. She's probably still got the camera. What was on the film? Don't answer that question.
Yeah.
I got into it because of, this seems a really shallow reason, but I was working in radio, and we went round to a friend's house who lives locally to here. She's a landscape photographer, does a bit of commercial work, and she had a bag full of I don't remember it was Nikon or Canon, but it was a bag full of kit. And I looked at this bag and I thought, it was singing at me. I thought, wow, that looks a great amount of gadgets.
Typical man. That's a man thing.
That's a man's answer.
Things can be plugged in. I want it.
There was nothing to do with emotion. It was all to do with the fact that Joe Andreas had this fantastic array of cameras, and I was thinking, Joe, this is great, But his next question: how did you learn? Well, again, you learned on the job, didn't you? Really?
Yeah.
Had to learn as you went along.
Yeah.
Cameras you started with. You were a Canon man, weren't you? I was a Canon man. And that was it. And what made you want to get into it? Well, we
just change your life.
Your life. Yeah. Yeah. Did you do any photo projects in colleges or anything like that?
No.
No, none of that.
Nothing.
Do you feel you'd like to do that, or not? Really, not worried about that?
What did I when I was in college? You mean? Or
No. You know how some people go and do city and guilds and
MAs.
and
I didn't. I'm actually running a course right now at Cirencester.
you are, aren't
adult
you?
course.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's no kind of qualification at the end of it.
Right.
It's about documentary photography, and it's been good fun.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, thank you very much for that.
Yeah. So I have a question from James Martindale. He says, "Hope the 1 year anniversary show went well. It did, didn't it? I think it did. I know it was 2 weeks ago, but
Seems
it was
ages ago.
Very
now.
good.
Yeah. I mean, people have even forgiven us for Glasgow Lee Glasgow's.
Bless him.
Piece at the end.
Gutted not to be there. So a couple of questions. Number one, when are you going to come to Ireland?
Oh, love to. Is the answer.
Promise the first round of real Guinness. As he'll buy the first round of real Guinness, as he knows we both like stuff. Well, in that case, let's go now, shall we? Yeah, let's go. Right.
To hell with the money.
Second question. Right, you've been talking on the show about life changes of late. In particular, Kevin's vegan expedition. Although I like to use the words plant-based diet.
Yes. There should be a T-shirt. We were on a break. I can do it. That was the Friends one, wasn't it? Plant-based diet.
Gemma, as a joke, bought me a vegan stamp at Christmas.
Did she?
Like a post. You stamp it on things and it comes out green and vegan. And as Albie was asleep in bed the other day, I noticed he'd stamped all over his feet about 8 times vegan. Just on the bottom of his feet. Bless him.
Why did he do that?
He just like stamping it, but he doesn't want to do it anywhere where people will see it.
No, well, you did.
That was shortly after he had his chicken burger. As a photographer in my late 50s,
he's an undercover vegan.
As a photographer in my late 50s of many years, I'm noticing that I need to. Oh, this is a great question. I'm noticing that I need to think about fitness more these days. A long day shooting editorial work or weddings and portraits really now takes it out of me. What do you both do to keep fit? On to the next question.
Well, in terms of fitness, I have.
You go to the gym.
I do go to the gym, but I'm trying to take it far more seriously now. I've noticed. I'm in my early 50s, and I'm noticing that a long day, I do feel it the next day. Doesn't matter on the day itself. I'm fit as a fiddle, but I do feel it more. So weight training's becoming more important.
Yeah.
I know we're not lifting great amounts of gear with Fujifilm. A lot of the time, you are with your GFX now. Yeah, you have to start doing those dumbbells, working out a bit more. But that eating has become slightly more important in terms of choosing what I eat. Still not quite got that right. I'm immeasurably proud of the fact that you've managed to. It's November then you started being on this plant.
End of October.
End of October. That's incredible. I mean, the other day at wedding, you got offered a plate of food, and then and you didn't want the pork thing. And they took you into the kitchen and showed you a vat of beetroot something.
Beetroot stew.
Which I remember when we were talking about. He said to me, I was going to ask him to take it just looked like blood stew. He said, "Can you take the eyeballs out, please?" But
it was nice though.
You stuck rigid to it.
I did, yeah, and it stuck rigid to my white shirt.
Yeah, I can't eat beetroot because there's something that happens after you eat beetroot that makes you think, "Oh no, I've got a terrible illness."
You're one of those people that don't pronounce the T in beetroot.
Beetroot.
You said
beetroot.
Beetroot. That
could be my Hertfordshire upbringing.
Yeah, but okay. So when you go to the gym, did you do some? You went to the gym this morning. What time did you go to the gym this morning? 6 o'clock in the morning at the gym.
Yes.
So how many times a week do you do that?
3 times.
Yep.
If I can do 4
for an hour.
Yep. And at least twice now. It will be at least once, but we're hoping to do twice a week with a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And that's not because suddenly I've come into oodles of money. It's because I'm making a podcast and doing a film series so we're doing kind of a trade for
barter.
We're just friends.
I'm doing this thing now where I used to go to the gym a lot, and I still go as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I'm doing this
your
10-10-100 system.
Yeah. I know. Explain that so everybody understands it.
So basically, the idea is that eventually you get to run in 10 kilometers doing 100 press-ups and 100 sit-ups in each session, and you would want to do that like maybe twice or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's a huge thing. That's massive to be able to do that. So 100
in a row.
Yeah, 100 press-ups and sit-ups is not unreasonable.
Didn't J-Lo used to do something like 1,000 a day?
Yeah, that's 100 is not unreasonable. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you build up to it. So currently,
you get groin strain if you're a man and you're not used to doing that many.
Well, if you're doing it wrong, perhaps, it's doing a press-ups or sit-ups you're going to get groin strain from?
No, because your whole body's just tensing along your core, isn't it?
I want to watch you do a press-up.
Your backbone's connected to you.
So the idea is you start really, really low, so at half.
Yeah.
So that would be half kilometre run, 5 press-ups, 5 sit-ups, and you do that 3 times a week. And as long as you do it 3 times in a week, then the next week you go up to 1 kilometre run, 10 sit-ups, 10 press-ups. As long as you do that 3 weeks in a row, you go up to 1.5, etc., etc. Now, if in any case, in any week you can't get to 3 sessions and you can't do your 3, you have to penalise yourself and go back down a half.
Oh no.
And so because I've been fluctuating about in Switzerland and various places
Where
like that.
are you? On the minus levels now?
No, I'm not. I'm up to 4.5 now.
Oh,
so
wow. 4.5k?
Yeah, so Friday I did 45 press-ups, 45 sit-ups, 4.5k run.
Yeah.
Then that took about 35 minutes in total.
Yeah.
Now, the longer the sessions go on, the longer the session. The further the distance, the longer the session. But the great thing about it is it's targeted, and also it's not boring, and it doesn't involve any of those muscle machines with you've got in our gym, which is a brilliant gym, by the way. I go in there and there's like gorillas lifting bloody tree trunks above their heads and stuff. I waddle in with my little beer belly, and
You don't have a beer belly.
so I avoid that room now. I just do my thing, and it's really good. And with the plant-based diet, it makes me feel a lot better, much more fitter. But you're right. I mean, James, you're right. As we are all getting older, obviously, I think looking after yourself is important. And I do judo now, once a week.
I know you're
Twice a week sometimes.
You're a brown belt.
I am. Got my brown belt back.
So this is all good. This is all positive stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all positive.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I go home and have wine.
See, that's not so good then, because you're unwinding all the good work you've done.
Yeah. Well, you've got to have a bit of fun.
That's true. Paul Wright from the Facebook group. Question for any landscape photographers. What tripod would you recommend for somebody who's starting out? I don't want to spend more than about 200 quid, just in case it doesn't get used that much and it just sits in a cupboard somewhere. I know so many photographers that buy tripods and they end up as clothes horses. They just never get used. Do you have a tripod?
Yeah, I've got a Manfrotto with an RC something or other head.
Yeah.
That's RC the letters, not RC. It's a good head.
We know what you meant. I've got a Manfrotto as well, and I can't remember what RC number it is at all. But yeah,
it was
Manfrotto. I find are great because they're strong and long and go on forever. So we move on to another question. Yeah. Hugh Rawson. I'm an amateur street photographer shooting mostly in London. I've been approached by an agency interested in my work. Oh, well done you. Yeah. Any thoughts on a daily rate for shooting in London would be hugely appreciated.
Was this off the Facebook group?
Yeah. I thought I'd take a few hours conversation with you.
I didn't have a clue about that, but I suggested he spoke to
Nick Turpin.
Nick.
Yeah?
Still thinking about the tripod. Yes, Nick, of course, Nick. And I think Nick did get in touch with him. But there is also the NUJ have a website where you can type in what your images are to be used for, and it will give you a suggested daily rate. You just type in NUJ photographers rates into Google, and you'll find that. But that's great that he's getting commissioned from street photography.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, not many people do that these days.
That's fantastic. Well done, Hugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, your question.
Okay, my
Make
question...
it not about tripods.
No, it's not. It's quite a complicated question. Hi, Kevin and Neil. Hope this email finds you both fine and dandy. Blah, 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 blah. I have recently succumbed to the dark side of the Force and officially swapped Canon for Fujifilm. In fact, it was at the X-Weddings conference where I came back $4,500 poorer.
Well done. You look, third cash register in as many... In the same half.
$4,500. I get blamed a lot. My wife says thank you to you both.
She's probably got a dartboard with your face on it.
My wife says thank you very much, and she doesn't like holidays anyway. My question to you both is this. Now that you need to listen to this carefully.
Go on.
I have read so many debates on various forums and Facebook groups discussing whether or not the aperture is affected by the relevant crop factor on a crop sensor camera, in the same way the focal length is, but I have still not been able to ascertain the correct answer. When purchasing a lens, the vendor will often state on their website the equivalent 35mm focal length, but do not mention anything in regards to the f number. It makes sense to me that the f number would also change, i.e. 16mm f1.4 on Fujifilm camera would be equivalent to 24mm f2.1 on a full frame. Please can you provide your expert opinions on this matter and help clear this up once and for all? Right, Neil, this one's for you.
No, I was just reading the next few questions. I was thinking Kev's clearly got this one sorted. Talking to the resident tech man in the room.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that the aperture in terms of depth of field, yes, is changeable. Does get affected. However, the light gathering doesn't. That's my understanding. So f1.4 on a Fujifilm camera should have the same light gathering ability as f1.4 on a full frame camera. However, the effective depth of field
is less.
Will be less.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding. I may well be wrong. I am not a nuclear scientist. I tell you who would know the answer to this. Carl from Fujifilm.
Yes.
Or James.
Actually, Carl did say he'd come and do a Carl Cares or some other
yeah, he would know all of this stuff. Him and James, who used to, I think he's back at Fujifilm now. They're product support guys. They're probably the two brainiest people I've ever met.
Nathan would know.
And Nathan would probably know as well. Yeah. But Nathan, we couldn't have Nathan here.
Why?
No, because it would just all go wrong. There would be.
Why would it go wrong?
It would just be too funny.
All right. Okay.
Just joking, Nate.
All right.
But yeah, those would know the answer. 24. Yeah, I'm fairly sure that's the answer. Yeah. What do you think?
I agree with everything you say on that particular point. Should we do a book before we do this week's interview with the amazing Gabrielle Motola?
Yes.
And last week we had Jane Bowen. I'm a big fan of Jane Bowen's work. Really like her work. This week, though, the book you brought in is...
This week, I have got Sam Abell's The Life of a Photograph. Remember Sam? We talked about Sam a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
We did.
He had his image, I think, plagiarised is the right word to use.
It was the smoking...
The horse.
The horse thing.
On the Marlborough.
The cowboy that was used for the Marlborough ad.
The untitled picture, the cowboy.
Yes.
Yeah. So The Life of a Photograph by Sam Abell is essentially a tome of a book, nice big. And what I love about this book, as I did about the exposure book last week, Jane Bowen, is that it's a horizontal layout. It's not a portrait layout.
Yeah.
Which means that you don't have to have all of the pictures with a great big gutter mark down the middle. I hate that. Admittedly, when some of the images are really wide, that's going to happen. But I hate photo books that are portrait orientation, and then the images are either really small in the middle of a portrait page, or they spread across the gutter. And that's. Do you know why they do that?
Why?
Because bookstores insist that the books they stack easier on the shelves.
Is that the reason?
They travel easier. Yeah.
Oh.
Probably cheaper to produce because it's the easiest, it's the most normal way.
I don't. Why would it stack easier, whether it's horizontal?
Well, because if a bookshelf is only that wide, and they're all sticking out the edge.
Oh, they just don't want the big wide ones.
Yeah.
You could. I tell you, we had a question last week about producing your own book. I think Kev, when you do, you should produce a round one. That would confuse them.
A round one. Anyway, back to the book. So Sam Abell's, it says here, Sam Abell's wide-ranging work here richly represented includes notable photographs for National Geographic magazine and books. In addition, Abell presents photographs from his personal body of work for the first time, and that's the bit I like about this book, the personal stuff. And it's simple things like being in a cafe. It's the stuff. The one on the front cover is a table. It's got an empty ashtray or plate and the plate number, condiments, person crossing the road outside. Could be FujiCast at 4 type picture that. Yeah. It's beautiful and it's made the cover of his book.
Is that the kind of work that drives you to work in the street style that you do?
Yeah, I think so. The thing is, what I really admire about this kind of photography, if you like, and of course Sam Abell is a very, very well established photographer, but the fact that he chose that picture, or the curator of the book chose that picture to go on the front cover, should tell us something about what's in front. I'm just going to show Neil because he's stretching.
Yeah.
And we all sit there looking at stuff like this every day of the week, and that's kind of why we wanted the FujiCast at 4 thing to kick off, although I've been very remiss in putting stuff in there.
Well, I get my reminder and I think, yep, I'm on it, and then when 4 o'clock comes, I wish we'd have gone the 4 o'clock hour rather than exactly 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
because that's what's tripping me up.
Yeah, and
can we change the rules?
Yeah. Get Neil's in charge of that now.
We'll tell Neil to do that.
Yeah.
He'd have already done it by the time this episode comes out. So that's what was the driving force behind that Facebook idea.
Yeah, kind of. The fact is, we all see beautiful things every day, and yet we don't take pictures of it. And actually, we don't know they're beautiful things.
Yes.
Okay, this is nice light falling installing on a salt and pepper pot, effectively, and there's a little bit of background interest, there's a bus and stuff, and we talk about that thing last week with Tatsuo, and the ability to be able to take pictures of people in the streets. How we wouldn't know that this is probably from the 70s, I would say. This lady, her clothes, the cars, the bus, that road is probably very different now in real life, and that's what I love about candid photography. And this isn't a this is candid, but it's still life. It's the table. There's nothing dramatic about it. Yeah, it tells so much about what was going on at the time. So that's my book of the week, and of course there's a lot of his stuff.
People like Sam Abel would be as well known and famous these days if they were starting out scratch with that many photographers around. Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? It
is a very interesting question. And I remember once being on a panel with the one of the curators for Magnum. We were in Dubai, I think, at the first or second Fujifilm Summit or whatever. And I spoke to her about books, and I said, do you not think that like Instagram and the online world is that affecting book sales? Yeah. And she said it's actually not affecting book sales, but they're having to produce more beautiful books and there's a proper marketing message about the difference between a book and what's in it,
which you never had to do before.
No. But interestingly, she did say that, remember, the books that sell these days are the ones that are selling the most are the ones that offer nostalgia. Oh. So all of the old photographers, we're talking about Magnum photographers here, who produced, the way of getting their work out back in the day was books. I think Martin Parr's produced 300 books, and he's still producing them. Yeah, he's got hundreds. But that was their way of getting the books out. And now, obviously, things are online and stuff, and so the book sales are the nostalgic ones, typically, which tells us a lot about the power of a picture. That's the whole point of a picture.
Well, I can get lost for a long time online looking at old pictures of I wanted to see, the other day I was trying to find a picture of what was called the Arcade in Hartford. And he used to have a record shop in there called Trax. And I thought, I wonder if there's any pictures of the old arcade. And there were. And I started finding these pictures leading me right round the town of when I was a child. I would pay a fortune to have a book. And there isn't a book from that period, but you can find odds and bobs.
Yeah. Well, the people in Malmesbury, they self-funded a book called Malmesbury Now and Then, and they've just published it, and it's I don't know why they call it Now and Then, because it's nearly all pictures of the past, but because you can't get pictures of the future, of course. But it's great. It's
not even with your GFX.
It's literally like Malmesbury hasn't changed much, but it is enough for you to look at a picture and go, wow, look at that.
We were talking about the Daily Nice a few weeks ago, and there it is, dailynice.com. thedailynice.com. Jason Evans is the photographer, and he takes the FujiCast, the four... Yeah. FujiCast at 4.4 FujiCast. What is that title?
Ask Neil. Neil knows.
Neil Ford knows. Yeah. But he takes a picture and puts it up every day, the Daily Nice, and at the moment, there we go, there's
and that's it. It's
pretty stormy sea close to where he lives.
Just a picture every day.
Yeah, just a picture every day.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, that's the idea.
Can you see the previous pictures or anything?
No.
Wow.
No, you never get to see the previous. Every day you go there, a picture loads, and that's it. Thedailynice.com. I've been following it for years.
Incredible idea.
Yeah.
And no advertising on there. No, nothing.
It's a white website with just a picture, pump, in the middle.
I just like the title, The Daily Nice.
Thedailynice.com. He's been doing it for years.
That's lovely.
Look up stuff about it. He might be quite an interesting guest, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you contact him? There's no way to contact him. There's not even a contact button.
No, I know that would be the difficult bit. Jason Evans. There are quite a few articles about him online that you can read, so super. Right, this week's interview. Where to start with Gabrielle Motola, the philosopher, the sociologist, the traveller, the photographer and the mentor. Brief resume: studied for a short while within the four walls of Annie Leibovitz's studio. There was psychology, there's film and photography training in Miami and Paris, a printer, an editor, a teacher of cinema, 5 years in Iceland where she produced her first book, An Equal Difference, which we'll talk about. So today's interview I'm going to describe as a dance, and we'll start those moves in New York, Gabrielle, with Annie Leibovitz. How did you come to be training within those hallowed walls of her New York studio?
Well, I was on spring break So I went to UM in Miami, and unlike everybody else, I went from Miami to New York for spring break, and I'd found Annie's Van Damme studio address on the internet the day before I left. And when I got up to New York, because I knew I'd be moving up to New York after college, I couldn't wait to leave Florida. I called. I just called the number, and I spoke to a woman who answered, and I was friendly and direct and explained the situation. And it was kind of funny that I was in New York for spring break. And she said she would get me in touch with the studio manager and I should call back at 5:00. So I did. And I explained my situation again to a man named John, who at the time was her studio manager. And he said that he could see me on a Wednesday. So I went in with my student portfolio and I waited for 2 hours in the waiting room. I was getting to the point where my little ego was like, no, I can't wait any longer. They hate me. I don't want to be somewhere where they hate me. But of course, they were just busy. Yeah. And he came out and he sat down and he looked through my student work and he said, oh, there's some good stuff here, but I have to ask you, why do you want to work for us? And I just didn't even think and said, I figured I might as well start at the top.
So after your initial photographic experiences and working, of course, in Annie Leibovitz's studio, you left America, and we'll get to your time in Iceland in a while. But why the move to Europe? What's it about this continent that draws you to spend your time this side of the Atlantic?
Well, when I studied in Paris, my junior year of college, I went to a 3-month course, and I just fell in. I mean, I was in love with French cinema and in love with Europe. My mother's very Europeanized. She even taught us to eat, unlike Americans, like Europeans, where you don't cross your knife and fork over. And my family's first generation Turkish immigrant on my father's side. My mother's family's German and Romanian. It brings up the question, what is American? But I was always drawn to sort of European sensibilities and art and education and history. And I got the opportunity when I was in New York working in a television company. And I don't mind us dancing because that is what my life feels like. I got an opportunity. I was then at the time an editor. By then I decided that I wasn't going to pursue commercial photography and I would make my living in post-production, which is what I trained at in university. I trained as a filmmaker, so as well as a photographer. So I was making my living as an editor and got the opportunity to do a film in London because the director lost her visa and had to come back to England. So the producer was like, do you want to come to London for 8 weeks and edit this film? And I was like, yes, I do. And I will quit my job in New York and pack up all my stuff and put it in storage, what I cannot sell. And I will go do this job and then I will travel and figure out how to not live in the United States for a while. And I thought I would go to France eventually, but I got marooned here in London.
There's also the psychology, though, isn't there? And psychology and cinematography that you've studied. And I would imagine both must help you photographically now.
It is. I mean, it sort of has a funny reason, like all things. It's because when I decided to become a film major, originally I was an engineering major. And I thought, wow, I looked at my syllabus and I thought I will either jump off the top of this building or throw somebody off by the mid-semester. There's no way I can do this. And I go see the film school. And when I enrolled in the film school, because it's not a real career, back then in 92 or 3, they were like, you have to double major in a liberal arts. You have to pick a liberal arts module. Like you have to pick something. And I was like, well, I'm really interested in writing and psychology. My mom's a licensed clinical social worker. My stepfather is a psychologist. My father is a pharmaceutical chemist. So I just went for psychology, and it's the study of human thought and development. I mean, so like, what better backbone could you possibly want for cinema or photography when you're dealing with expressing ideas and concepts and emotions and trying to get them across to other people?
I certainly think that's important for this next question I have, because I first became really aware of your work following some articles and then a film by someone we fondly refer to on the show often, Sean Tucker, and his film about photographing strangers. And he talked at length about how you approach that one facet of photography that I think frightens the living daylights out of most photographers, though they'd dearly like to do it. And you have this inquisitiveness about strangers, which I love. But was it always that easy just to approach people in the street for their portraits? Because you just look entirely at ease doing so.
Yeah, and inside I'm losing my mind. I'm very nervous on the inside, but on the outside I look calm. I mean, not always a complete wreck or anything like that. I mean, at the beginning, when I started photography in the 90s at school, I think it was like 92, I was terrified to approach anybody, not just strangers, but friends too. And gradually it's just a process of exposure. And I think that I only really consciously made the decision to make myself do it daily after I had dinner with John Manel, who operates the handle Portrait Per Day on Instagram. I'd met him at an Olympus exhibition, and we'd met at the exhibition and made plans to go have dinner, and we did, and we had a walk and a talk. And it was one of those wonderful meetings, and I just thought, well, maybe I just need to force myself to just do this every day, because he does it literally every day. So for a year, I did that. I still feel fear when I do it. It looks easy, but there is still always an obstacle. There's always almost always a hesitation that I have to overcome. And it's always a question of how quickly I overcome it, not like if it's there or not. It's always there.
Now, I noticed in the film that you suggested that you keep your approaches quite short. Is that a trick?
At the beginning, I would go up to people and be like, so I'm trying to like overcome my fear of photographing strangers, and I'm trying to do it every day. I just get a blank stare, or I'd feel them shrinking into themselves, like away from me. And I would be like, okay, all right, too much information. So I just started to simplify it. And eventually, it depends on how I'm feeling on the day or what the situation is, but I'll just say, can I make a portrait of you, or a picture, or can I make a photograph of you? Or I'd really like to take your picture. Is that all right? The other night I did a portrait of a guy in like a leopard print coat and a hat eating chips in Soho. I was on a workshop with Josh Jackson, and we were walking back to meet the group, and we all spotted him, and I just went, I'll be right back. And I just walked over to him and said, would it upset you if I asked to make a picture of you? Because I just felt like he probably gets that a lot. So I didn't want to upset him. And he just looked at me and he was like, no. I mean, and we had this like chat about, he's an actor, and we didn't really get through what kind of an actor, but just that, what should I do? And I just said, just keep eating your chips. You don't have to do anything. And so he just did. He just kept eating his chips, and I took some pictures. And then finally I said, are you going to look up at me? And he did. And that was the picture, because he literally just went into the chips. And so, I mean, every encounter is different. Yeah. Also, I can just feel people. It's like a dance. They either come and meet you, or they pull away. And sometimes the pulling away isn't necessarily a rejection. It's just fear. And sometimes those are the people that are the most open and warm once you get past that initial meeting. It is helping me to deal with certain aspects of rejection and anxiety and stuff, which result in depression.
Does it make you more, if somebody does reject you or says no, are you able to say, okay, fine? Yeah. Or do you push it further?
It depends on the situation. It really depends. Sometimes it's a hard no.
Right.
And sometimes I push it a little bit, and sometimes I get through, and sometimes I don't. But what I'm learning to do is not take rejection personally, which I think is so hard for all of us. It's so hard. It hasn't translated to my romantic life, sadly. Yet. I'm waiting for that. But it is translating into other interactions and stuff. And it does make me feel much more part of the world. I feel like I'm with people when I'm on the street. We
spoke to a photographer a while ago called Ian McDonald, who's a paramedic in Canada, or was, and he suffers from PTSD and depression. He said exactly that getting out on the street was a real tonic to him, photographically getting out on the street.
Definitely. I think just connecting with your environment and connecting with people in it, not being afraid of each other. We're so driven to be afraid of each other, and why? I mean, I know that there are definitely, especially in London, situations which one can get into which could be dangerous potentially, and I understand that. But for the most part, I find most people are just nice people getting on with their lives, and it's a tragedy that we live in fear of each other so much, because we're here together on this earth in this moment, and this is all we have, and we're all part of it. So why not connect? Why not talk to each other? Why not discuss how much we really don't want to go to work today, like on the tube in the morning? I don't know, it's just like, it's just nice to smile. I smile at people a lot. And when I get a smile back, it just lights me up. And
you can try that next time you're on the tube then. Who wants to go to work today?
I've thought about saying, but then they'll think I'm crazy. And people in New York do it all the time.
Do they?
I mean, not all the time, but it's not unusual for somebody to just start speaking on the train.
So they're more auditory on a train in New York, are they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, like sometimes I even had a conductor once start talking about his kid going to college in the morning, like on telling us a story on the way to work. It was lovely. I mean, when the guys come on to busk or they come on to ask for money, I always feel the room change when that happens. I feel everyone like shut down and go into D mode more so than they already are. And I wonder what it would feel like to do that on a train and say, can I have everyone's attention? I'm sorry to bother you. They're going to think I'm going to ask for money. Just wondering if you're feeling like the dread of going to work today. And I just wanted to connect with you on that because I know how hard that is.
Hey, I hear a project. Can you imagine the very first photographs after making your statement?
I don't know. I mean, I made a post the other day, just a few days ago, of a woman leaning her head into the side of the tube, and it was just basically, it was like hey, this is Monday morning. And if you're going into Monday like this, take some time for yourself today to just look at something beautiful. It can be anything you like. Just do something for you. Find the beauty in your workday. Maybe it's your favorite meal. Maybe it's the nice chair that you're sitting on. Just anything, because I know how hard it can be to feel like you're a prisoner of time for money that you don't want to be in.
What piques your curiosity in people and projects, maybe? Who is a Gabrielle Motola person or project?
Everything. I'm curious about people. I just, it's like having a friend on the planet, it's just like, what is it like to be alive for you? And everyone's got their unique set of experiences and their ideas and their perspective. And I'm interested in hearing about it. Every person is a story, has stories.
And you say you feel more when you're making street portraits rather than see.
I mean, I'll see something, but I'll feel the sense of a situation. So rather than getting tied down to the viewfinder and really, really trying to overcompose a picture, I'll loosen up a bit and I'll not look through the camera sometimes. I won't try and frame the photograph to death. Sometimes you just have to go with the feeling of what you feel when you see something and put the camera up and take the picture.
Let's bring in the Kawasaki. The bike features in one of your personal projects in particular. And if you go to Gabrielle's website, Henge to Henge is definitely a project you want to look at. I mean, that was a journey and a half, wasn't it? I'm not sure you could have covered what you did in a car quite so easily, certainly not the Iceland leg. But let's explain the project. So you start in Amesbury at one henge, and the idea is to do what?
Twofold. The idea is to get a motorcycle to Reykjavik so I can have one there because I'm living in Iceland at the time, and also go visit the Arctic henge in the northern eastern part of Iceland. So they've built like a kind of Stonehenge tribute. They're of their own making, it's pagan, it's open, it's non-religious, it's sort of a place to gather and look and celebrate. And so I wanted to drive the bike. I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do this and make a project out of it. And wouldn't it be kind of makes sense to bookend it with these two henges? It gives me a goal, and I did. So I flew to London, bought a motorcycle, a little 250 Kawasaki flat tracker, with sort of on-off-road tires. And I got introduced to an amazing mechanic by the guy who sold me the bike. And her name is Karen, and she's at Zenith Motorcycles. And I took the bike to her, even though Paul, who sold the bike to me, is he's a really avid, fastidious Kawasaki, particularly like motorcyclist, and knows a lot about bikes and fixes bikes and builds bikes. I took it to Karen just to get it once over checked, and felt really confident getting on the road. And then I planned out how long I thought I could sit on that bike for, and did a test run up to Mallis in Suffolk, which is always farther than I think it's going to be. It feels like it's short, but it's not.
Suffolk is. I was thinking it sometimes it's quicker to fly to Spain than it is to drive to some of the parts of Suffolk.
What is it about Suffolk? It's like that.
No,
it's like never ending.
It is never ending, and it's actually not one of the it's not one of the largest counties in the country at all.
No, but to get there, it just always takes longer in a car or on a bike than I ever think it will.
And it's that bike that gives you such freedom, isn't it? And you do talk about this, and it addresses and you've talked about the anxiety you feel as well. It addresses some of those anxiety problems, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you get on a bike, your brain really has something to worry about. So all the other stuff that you were thinking about before, your life, your work, your love life, whatever it is you're obsessing about or worrying about, your brain shuts off and goes, right, now I must keep you alive.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in the film. I like that. I did chuckle.
Just if I'm feeling anxious, as soon as I get on a bike, I don't feel anxious anymore.
Yeah.
Anxiety turns into excitement and focus. So that goes really well with getting myself into the state of mind I need to be in to make pictures. Because I think sometimes we can all get very anxious about making the picture, so much so that we stop paying attention to our curiosity. And, we start paying attention to what if and how should we do this instead of just being in our curiosity, I
agree with that. I think sometimes photographers do suffer from block, and I think what you've described is exactly what happens.
Yeah, so naturally, these are all, I don't know how this all makes sense, but these are all just things that I love to do, and they're kind of finding ways into my life to combine. They're kind of combining as I do them. Was never a plan to be like, I will buy a motorcycle and make photographic projects. It's just I love a motorcycle. I need one. Here's an opportunity to make a project. And I was just able to allow myself to explore. And because it was a small bike, I took B roads. I wasn't on the highway. So I saw a lot of the parts of the countries I traveled through that you wouldn't see if you just drove through on the motorway.
And this is a good time as well to mention Iceland, because whilst many people are desperate to visit, many photographers are desperate to visit Iceland as part of their photographic bucket list, I suppose. You had the chance to spend 5 years there, and it was time that was well spent because it spawned your first book, An Equal Difference. What was it about the country that truly inspired you, that drew you there?
They were early, in the crash of 2008, they were just talking about things that we weren't talking about. I mean, yes, they were prosecuting their banking criminals more than anybody else. But they were talking about behaviors that led to the crash, and nobody was really doing that. And I had read one article in a paper about the over-masculinization of the mentality and the behavior that led to this kind of group mentality ultimately that carried people along in this behavior that didn't really want to do it, but everybody else was doing it. And you see that in I used to be a skateboarder and hang out with gangs of guys, and you're in that mentality of, well, we're just going to do what everyone else is doing because it's easier than saying no. And I thought, wow, who are these people on this rock in the North Atlantic, and why are they talking about this like this, and why is no one else? And then of course these gender equality and equal living metrics and all of that started coming out, and they kept topping these charts. And I was like, well, what does it actually mean in their world? What are their people like? Are they just better people? Are they more evolved or something? So I was curious to go and talk to these people. And then obviously the volcano erupted, and that brought up all sorts of more conversations in the press about their green energy policies, and the fact that they are just very blessed with their global position in terms of wind, water, and not so much solar, but mostly and volcanic power. So it took 5 years to get from the idea to Iceland, but the idea was just to go talk to people.
So did you plan or think that a book would naturally, organically develop out of this?
There was no plan for a book. It was just, let's go talk to as many people as I can fit in a week. And I think I did 26. I had 26 portrait sessions in 1 week, thanks very much to a woman who I was put in touch with through a friend of mine in New York, who was his wife was a travel agent, and they were working together with this company. And I'd seen them on Instagram and knew that they were going to Iceland frequently. So I called them first and just got put together with this woman, Anita, and she just took it on fully. She just said, wow, all right, I told her what I wanted to do. I think originally I just wanted to meet her for a coffee. And she was like, I have people for you. I know. And she just started sending me lists of names and pictures and stories, and just with her put together a schedule of people and helped me book people. And just when I landed, I had a schedule of probably about 20 people and then just filled in some more because people would say, you should talk to this person or you should talk to that person. And so I did.
It's clearly a place far beyond the obvious black sand beaches and aircraft crash site images, although I know you've photographed that particular aircraft. What would be your advice for photographers visiting the country?
You need to go to the places, but just enjoy it for yourself and maybe, explore other parts that haven't been explored. I mean, I don't know. I think Iceland is so oversubscribed. I kind of, there's a part of me that dies a little bit thinking about more people unleashed on the terrain to go running around photographing it, because unfortunately not everybody has the same amount of respect for nature as the people who live there. And I've watched along with natives as more and more and more people come, how it's destroying the nature that is so beautiful there because people are not treating it with respect. Or so be respectful. And I'm sure there's lots of photographers out there too that would be very respectful, but be respectful of the barriers they've put up in terms of asking you not to go places now. Read the signs. Unfortunately, there didn't used to be them, but because people behave in certain ways and repeatedly they've had to put them up. Yeah. There's a couple of funny pictures in An Equal Difference. One of a guy painting a white line along the edge of a cliff. And I was visiting with friends and I asked him what he was doing. He was like, a guy jumped, he fell off the cliff and died. So we need to put a warning. And I was but isn't the edge of the cliff a warning? He's like, that's what we thought.
Yeah. You're promoting An Equal Difference at the moment. You're promoting it mainly through Instagram. Is that right? Or
yeah, correct. I'm posting snippets of the book and pictures from the book on the An Equal Difference account, but I'm also sharing it on my main account, which has quite a lot more people involved in that community. And I'm just in a much better place with my ability to promote it because I feel like I've had quite a lot of distance from when it was published, and it's a wonderful book, and it's just something that is still as relevant now as it was when I wrote it. So it's been really interesting to see the uptakes. I've sold quite a few books in January. I offered free shipping, which I think helped. It's just wonderful to see the book getting out there and getting the feedback that I'm getting from people who are reading it.
So what's happening next in your photographic career? I know you do a lot of speaking engagements. What do you plan photographically? I'm thinking as a biker, you're a free spirit. I want to believe that you have that sort of wandering spirit about you.
My wandering spirit is actually quite happy to be in London for a period of time because it did a lot of wandering last year and I'm tired and I really enjoy being in one place and I love London. So I'm going to stick around here for a bit and continue on exploring the street and seeing what I can develop there. But I also have a large back catalog of images to look through, especially from this past summer where I did a 2-month trip to Scotland. So I took a bigger bike and I did the Orkney Islands and the Hebrides and Skye and the Highlands. And I went to Oban and then back round and through and into Edinburgh. And I stayed on Portobello Beach for a month, which is where Sean met up with me and shot that film. So I've pulled some photographs from it, but I really haven't looked through that catalog. I'm bringing out a 2019 collection, also inspired by Mr. Tucker, of work and words from last year, from that body of work. And there's a few things in the distant boil, but I'm not entirely sure exactly what will come first. They seem to tell me themselves.
Thanks to Gabrielle Motola for her time on the interview this week. You can see more of Gabrielle's work and read about her travels, personal projects and street work by going to Gabrielle Motola. That's Gabrielle Motola, Motola.com. And you can connect direct for mentoring now too. And for this, it's worth visiting the Patreon link on Gabrielle's website. And I must say, I'm looking forward to actually we discussed spending a little bit of time, Kev, visiting an art gallery. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I love that sort of stuff.
Oh, you never do that with me.
The photo, well, we do. We go and stay away in hotels and stuff, you and I. I get the nice room.
Yeah.
You get the cupboard at the back.
Yeah.
We were just discussing, by the way, where we were talking about Jason Evans' idea of the Daily Nice, which you love that as an idea.
Absolutely adore it, yeah.
And we did find it. If you click on the picture, yes, you do see his email address. So, do you know what? I'll reach out and see if he'll be interested in having a chat about it. I'm not quite sure. One of the questions would, do you like that? Yeah, like that. It's Daily Nice. Do you like that one? Yeah. That was Daily Nice.
I think it'd be great. Well, I think it's a fascinating story. It's so simple, and I really applaud him for not even like an affiliate link or anything like that. It's just purely to give people a nice feeling for the day.
Talking of simplicity, then Kev mentioned one, which is on Facebook, which is the same photo of Jeff Goldblum every day, which I would imagine now that Gemma's practically salivating at the thought of the same picture of Jeff Goldblum every single day. And that's all it's called, the same photo of Jeff Goldblum every day.
And it is the same photo every day.
Well, I was sort of tabbing down thinking, it can't, yeah, it is, it really is.
It's got 900,000 followers.
No. Is it?
Yeah, 334,000 people like it. 333,000 follow it. So that's separate. So that's 600, not 900.
But that's an enormous amount of people following.
Look at the picture today, right? So today he's posted it. Let's go to the top.
There we go.
So he's posted 13 hours ago.
Yeah.
542 comments, 444 shares, 3.3 thousand likes. It's the same picture
every day,
and it has been for 3 years. It's exactly the same picture.
What sort of comments does he get? Right. Okay, so no, this person's done it 201 days. They've commented every single day for 201 days.
So they've got like little competitions going on.
So now people have to keep up the comments, the same comment every day.
God, we should introduce Neil Ford to them. He could sort out that administrative mess in a heartbeat.
Now, let's see. I've got some friends that like the page. Let's see. You're going to be on there, surely, aren't you?
I won't be on there, no.
Leslie Burdett.
Leslie Burdett likes this.
Oh,
Leslie, you listening?
I wouldn't have thought that would be Leslie's cup of tea.
In fact, ironically, and this is totally by chance, the next question I'm going to read out is from the lovely Leslie Burdett.
Well, Facundo Santana's on there. Now, if I put anybody on the same picture of Jeff Goldblum every day, Facundo Santana would not be. I mean, his work is, well, like Leslie's is.
Yeah.
But it's great, but I wouldn't have pinned you down as wanting to be the member of a club that is the same photo of Jeff Goldblum every day. But look, Ian Weldon's on there.
Ian Weldon. The same photo of Jeff Goldblum every day. Ian Weldon.
Wow. Oh, there we go.
Amazing.
So it has some unlikely followers.
So you need a bit of humour in your life, don't you?
You do. Well, the same photo of Jeff Goldblum every day will certainly serve you up that. So Leslie, that was a nice sort of dovetailed, segued part.
And it was totally incongruous. Incongruous.
That's right.
I have a technical question for you. I experiment all the time with double exposures with my X-T2 and 3s at weddings and my personal project.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if there is any way of saving the original RAW images as well as the combined double exposure JPEG. Keep up the good work, gents, especially the comedy aspect, please. Well, I hope you found that bit quite funny. Leslie, so so this is Leslie Jeff Goldblum fan Burdett. Do you know what? I don't know the answer to this because I never do double exposures. I know that it kicks out JPEGs.
Yes, it
as
does.
the exposure.
Yeah. And that's about as far as my knowledge goes with double exposure. I
thought that it saved the individual RAW files as well on the X-T3 at least. I did think that. I will, Leslie, I'm really sorry I can't kind of give you a definitive answer. I'm sure the people on the Facebook group will help us out, or I will take the time to look at it for you. But yeah, I thought the RAW files were saved. It doesn't combine the RAW files, I know that much. Why would it? Because RAW files are RAW files, that's the whole point of them. Yeah, because it never used to do the RAW files for the film exposure. When you were doing film bracketing, it wouldn't save the RAW files either. Now it does save the RAW file, but it saves a RAW file for each film bracketed shot. Which is crazy because you take three pictures in different film simulations. They're the same picture, it just processes them 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, it also saves 3 RAW files, which are identical. Neil's fallen into a coma.
No, I'm with you still.
So I hope that doesn't answer your question, Leslie.
Maybe the best place is the Facebook group there.
Yeah,
where an awful lot
we'll get to the bottom of that because I it's something that intrigues me actually.
See, live questioning as we go along. Another techie one, friend of the show, James Sauls. Hi, I have a gear question that I just wanted your thoughts on. I'm looking to either purchase a second-hand X-T3. Kev, are yours up for sale, he says in brackets. Or a new 5612 or 2314. I am limiting myself to just the one purchase for the new year to help step up my low light game. I do okay, but the low light number of UK churches and awful lighting at times, real challenge for me. I know I can improve how I work and how I approach these situations, and will do, but I also want to add a new bit of gear to help. He currently shoots with an X-T2, 23f2, and an XH1 35-1.4 or a 50f2, depending on the space that he has. So what do you think? I mean, I
56-1.2.
56-1.2.
Yeah.
The other day I used it at a couple of weeks ago now at a wedding. It was pretty dark. It was in a sort of basement area doing some dancing, and it was what I might call a more intimate dance floor by the. It wasn't right at the close of the evening, but certainly getting on towards it. And I thought, well, you've got to be very, very careful how you sort of charge into the dance floor with your 1024 with a little bit of flash, because people are going to get a little bit, after a while they're like, "I'm not you again." So I used the 56 in a low light condition with people moving around, not a great amount of light to work with, and I found it worked really, really nicely.
It's really cool.
And it's not all about obviously having to get every single image sharp as a sharp thing from Sharptown.
Yeah, I think especially with the with the back button focusing stuff, it's really cool. And the continuous focus on the X-T3 and the X Pro, and now the X Pro 3, continuous focus with the 56-1.2 is a dream. No, well, I'd go 56 because 35 and 23 is the difference between one step back and one step forward, and then a step to the left.
So that 23-1.4 is a great lens as well. I mean, I use that a lot during the day. That's my 35mm equivalent, of course.
I shoot everything basically on 23-1.4, 56-1.2.
Well, they're the two lenses I use: 23-1.4 and 56-1.2, and then the 1024 comes out every now and then.
Okay, so. I have a question. It's from two different people, but it's the same question. So this is from Matt and Mel. Right. Matt and Mel.
Matt and Mel show.
Mel Stewart and Matt doesn't give his surname, although I think it's Campagna. Essentially, the question is, I'm not going to read them both out, but the question is, do you think the X-T4 will be called X-T4 because 4 is an unlucky number?
Oh, we mentioned this last week, 2 weeks ago rather, at the 52nd episode, didn't we?
Yeah, and the fact.
Do you remember I asked Andreas that, and he looked at me. He didn't really answer, did he?
Yeah, but they've announced it now. So on the 26th of February, they will do the product release, not release, but product announcement, which is 2 days from now, if you're listening on the Monday. So next week, our plan, Neil and I, is to, so this is the episode on the 2nd of March, is to, we might do something a little bit interesting. Yeah. I think we might head up to London, have a play with something new, see if we can get a mucky paws on something that has a 4 in its name, and report back to you guys. So so that'll be
going to be a special edition.
That'll be the 2nd of March edition. And they have announced it. We're not talking out of line here. It is called the X-T4. Yeah, I mean 4 is typically an unlucky number apparently in Asia. However, there is a Canon 1D Mark IV, there's a Nikon D4X, and there's lots of 4s going around.
They don't feel that squeamish
about it. I don't think it's that bad. No. Yeah. I'm excited by that camera, though, I have to say.
Are you likely to, is that going to be one?
Well, I don't know.
Having just got the X Pro 3 and really loving your X Pro 3, I know you love your X Pro 3.
Well, having just got...
now along comes another camera.
Having just got an X Pro 3 and a GFX, then, the shackles are... Shackles? The shekels. The shekels are running low, and I have to say, I am intrigued. I don't know anything about the X-T4 yet, of course, but I am intrigued that it's coming quite so soon after the X-T3. And, I want to see what they've done with it. And kind of for that reason, I haven't bought an X100V yet.
Are you holding out?
I don't know. I can't possibly throw my money at both of them.
The video thing is for me, the video has got to be spot on with this.
That's
one.
I'm
so looking forward to this playing around with this camera.
That's what I would use it for. It's the video stuff. That's because stills wise, I've got all the bases covered.
Well, at the moment, I've got 2 X-T3s, an XH1, and the X100F, which is there. So I've even thought about going back to just having 2 cameras, 2 X-T4s. If it delivers the powerful punch that I want from the video, and there's been a few things that are really hopeful happening with the focusing system, then I would be very happy to say 2 X-T4s and that's it. Yeah, see,
same for me. I want the video capabilities, and I want to see what that is, because I want one to lock off in the studio for YouTube. I don't want to worry about taking it.
You can lock your X-T3 off quite well.
Yeah, but only have one of those. So I've got an X Pro 3 and an X-T3. They're my wedding cameras at the minute, because they're both the latest sensors. Yeah. So they are more than capable. I'm happy with them. But if I can get another XT body, to lock off in the studio for filming, then so be it. And if that happens to be an X-T4 or an X-T3, it doesn't really matter. But I'm waiting until the X-T4 comes along before I make my decision on whether I get an X-T4 and X100V to go along with my hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other cameras. I am about to sell a load of them.
It's like a museum.
I know.
Your place, it really is.
I'm going to sell loads.
So reviews before we have some more. One other question. I think we've got time for another couple of questions. Then the disaster stories. Jose. Well, I was always confused about with Jose, Mourinho, because of course it should be Jose, shouldn't it? He's a Jose. Why is he a Jose and nobody else is a Jose?
Because he's the special one.
Oh. This is from Jose 2BO, from Canada. Kevin and Neil produce an entertaining and informative podcast for all the photographers. Great banter and stories each week make it very worthwhile. Keep up the fantastic work. Amigos. Looking forward to future episodes.
This is from Llwys. Llwydys. Lewdis.
This is one of your Welsh brethren.
Educational and entertaining. This has been such a refreshing podcast for learning more about photography and running a photography business. Although the hosts are both Fuji users, it isn't strictly Fuji orientated, which is excellent. Their interviews, guests and rapport are excellent. Thanks for making this show and keep casting. Llwydys
and Jose. There's a lot of phlegmy words.
I'm going to go and have a shower.
Jose, remember this though.
You're our favourite listener, and we mean it.
If you'd like to send a review, then do so please on the Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. That would be very much appreciated.
There is a button on the website, on the menu, main menu that says leave a review here. And
last month we ran out of the we ran out of the amount of times you're allowed to click it. Apparently.
Oh, is there a limit?
Yeah, there does appear to be a limit.
Oh, yeah. Did they send you a naughty boy email?
Yeah, it did send me a naughty boy email. Oh. I put it in that file that's, I'll think about this file at some stage.
Well, okay. Please only click that button, that link, if you are going to leave a review. Yeah. Don't just click it.
No, God, no.
And don't just click it.
No. Right, your question, isn't it?
That's what people do with Google Ads, isn't it?
Is that what they do?
They search for their nemesis's name in business, and then they just click on their advert.
No, it doesn't work anymore now, though, does it? Because don't you have to be clicking on a... Doesn't it work out that you're from the same... does it not?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. If you just click it once, it will take it. If you repeatedly click it, we'll
well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but people are paying like £5 a click for these things these days.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. So sorry if I've cost you money. All right, so this is...
you wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that. This is Richard from Abu Dhabi. He says, Happy New Year, Neil, Kevin and families. That's nice.
Oh, thank you. Happy New Year to you too.
Originally from the UK, I now live in Abu Dhabi with my wife and 3 children, 6, 3 and 1-year-olds. I especially enjoy using my X100F and X-T3.
Abu Dhabi's where they have the all the police cars are Lamborghinis, aren't they? Isn't that Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And
Very la-di-da.
It is.
Where did that one come from?
Love it.
XE3. So using my X100F and XE3 to create family photos and sometimes video too. I would kindly welcome some advice on how to get the best photographs, images in bright sunlight, and with limited time for post-production.
It will be there, won't it?
3 young kids equals not much free time. I would especially like any advice regarding techniques before or during or the taking of the pictures rather than post-enhancements, especially aimed at Fujifilm cameras. I love the Fujifilm look and would like to know any settings or techniques you can recommend in bright sunlight to ensure the rich colours are captured in sunlight. He's really rubbing in the fact we don't get any sunlight here. And as much dynamic range as possible. Yeah. I would also welcome your view on using polarizers in these situations. Many thanks, Richard Sunlight from Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
I would certainly be popping a polarizer on that, and maybe a reflector. Actually, it depends how how hands-on you want to be. But sometimes that sun behind you with a rim light coming around the head, which can be absolutely beautiful way of working.
So don't forget the X100F has got a 3-stop ND filter built in for a start, and both the X100F and the XE3 also have electronic shutters. So with the electronic shutter, you can shoot up to 1/32,000th of a second.
It's incredibly fast.
So regardless how bright the light is, even in Abu Dhabi, you will still be able to get an exposure at 1/32,000th of a second. Yeah. More than likely, I would have thought it's got to be really bright otherwise. Now you may not necessarily be able to shoot at f2 at that, depending on how bright it is, but you're certainly not going to be forced down the route of using f16 and everything. So electronic shutter. Now, however, of course, he does have 3 young children, 6, 3 and 1-year-olds, which are going to be running around a bit. So the electronic shutter does present some issues that with kind of banding, or not banding so much, but like warped images sometimes, depending on the motion. So you just need to check that, really. Other than that, I mean, it becomes a technical thing. You might want to start thinking about spot metering rather than matrix, if that's what you're doing, just to try and get the exposure for that right on the children, your lovely children you have. But yeah, I mean, reflectors and all that kind of stuff, if it's portraits, that's absolutely fine. But if it's just candid running around pictures, that's not going to be a little bit more difficult. You might, I don't know, it depends if this is you might have a lovely loft conversion type property in Abu Dhabi with lots of window light. Yeah. So maybe you could get a scrim put in. I hate that word, scrim.
I love that word, scrim.
I hate it. Scrim.
Anybody got a scrim?
Yeah, I need a big scrim.
Bring the biggest scrim you can find.
Yeah. Monty has big scrims all the time. So that kind of stuff, really. But yeah, I think the electronic shutter is something to explore if you have not done so already, Richard.
I think I'd be moving into a studio definitely to do all my photography with that much sunlight bouncing around.
I love Abu Dhabi as well.
What you might need to do is move your Ferraris and your Lamborghinis out onto the street, park them out there. Everybody's got one out there, so it's not like you need to protect it, and turn that into a studio. Job sorted. Not everybody lives like that in those countries. I know the political thing before you write in. Here's one from, should we go? Do you want to go Rivki Lockyer or Ron Villar?
Let's go Rivki. I haven't heard from her for a while.
Rivki, friend of the show. Hi, Kev, Neil. First of all, thanks for the wonderful podcast. I listen on my daily photo nature walks. You guys are hilarious and informative. Well, Kev's both of those, yes. Thanks for keeping me entertained. On to my question. I'm an experienced photographer. We know that, yeah. I shot Canon for about 30 years. Some of Rivki's work's amazing, isn't it? Starting with film, then moving to DSLR and transitioned to Fujifilm a few years back. I recently decided to go back to basics, dust off the old analog film gear. I have my late father's Nikomatic 35mm SLR gathering dust in my closet. I sent that in for a good cleaning and also ordered a Minolta body on eBay. While I'm waiting for those to arrive, I was wondering if you two had any experience shooting film or any tips to offer on the process. I'm not looking to do my own developing at this point, but any feedback on gear and shooting process would be welcome. See, that was the bit that I really enjoyed about film, was the processing part, actually. Yeah. So my advice would have been slow life right down, get a red light, put some tape around the bathroom door and just enjoy watching them come to life again. I loved that part of it, and I've started shooting with my Nikon F5 a bit more again.
You can get tanks that you can agitator tanks that you can develop at home. You don't. I'm not talking about you have to do the paper, work the papers, but obviously you could take the film and then scan it, couldn't you? After you've developed your film. That's one thing I would do. But I did a little bit of film. I never really did anything like that. I've got film cameras.
Do you feel you've missed out by not doing that?
No, I don't feel like I've missed out. And also, I don't feel like I have the patience for it. No, I don't know. Maybe I would. I don't know. What I can definitely tell you though is I love the look of a well-developed film print.
The smell of developer in the morning.
I think we said it last week, didn't we? The irony that we spend all this money on modern cameras and then we spend hours processing them to try and look like old films.
I spent a couple of weeks ago. I went to see Fran May, who is a wonderful photographer near Bath. And she still prints her own work. She her 1974 to 1978 body of work is revered by many, and actually Bill Brandt was her mentor. And he mentioned to her when she took some prints when she was a student. She took prints to see him. Apparently, he was sat in a room, and he said, "Come in," and she went in and sat on a stool. This sounds very Dickensian, but there was a flickering flame. He was sat next to him, and he would have been quite old then, I think. And she was sat on this stool while he sort of flicked through the portfolio that she'd brought along, and you can imagine that sitting opposite Bill Brandt, thinking, "Oh my God, what are you going to say?" And eventually he looked up and said, "Fran, keep these because one day these pictures will be worth an awful lot, and in terms of memory and nostalgia." And we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And but she still prints, and it was fantastic to go and interview her. Yeah. And she said, "Would you like to see the dark rooms?" And I said, "Fran, you bet I would." I was in there like a shot, and she works from her loft. She's a loft area, and she puts the dark room. She said that doesn't play any music, just likes to listen to the process all happening. The hum of the motor of the enlarger.
That is nice.
Incredible way to work.
That is nice, yeah.
Darn fine artist, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
Very good artist.
Yeah,
Do we have time for one more question? I'll keep Ron Villar's. Ron, you haven't been forgotten. We'll keep yours. Is here. Look, we'll use that another week.
I have one from Andy Stonia, a little bit related to the previous question, not the previous one, but the previous but one. Andy Stonia, hello, love the podcast, blah, 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 blah. I've shot a lot of weddings over my years, and I've always kept my personal stuff below the radar, so to speak, although happy to have an analogue whinge. Online, though, I never express a political opinion, never diss anyone, never argue, never admit to being bored at a particular wedding.
Oh, you are perfect.
For example, with the recent Brexit debacle, I stayed quiet as I don't want to potentially cut my market by 48 or 52%. So I wonder if any opinions you have both expressed on social media have ever come to bite you on the professional verbial bum.
I don't know, but you wouldn't know, would you, unless people are, they might just disappeared off.
I agree with Andy when it comes certainly politics and
did you get
stuff.
I know I did on my personal Facebook group. I got involved with the Brexit thing. I was happy to say how I voted.
Your personal Facebook profile is slightly different.
But a lot of clients are on that personal Facebook profile.
In that case, I explain a bit. I'm with you, Andy, in that, I don't... like you often see, there's some wedding photographers at least, admittedly it's on Twitter more than anywhere else, when it comes to football and stuff like that, and they're...
Oh, never talk about football. I would never share who I support.
But they just sound like hooligans. They actually sound like they would. You could imagine these wedding photographers stood on the terrace shouting really horrible things about the other team. Yeah. And I just think, why? Even if you are thinking those things, why would you be saying that publicly? Yeah. Likewise, so I typically. So you don't share allegiances on. I know. Certainly with the Welsh rugby thing. Yes, no, absolutely. I have no problem with somebody saying I'm a Manchester United fan and I want them to win, of course. Or but not cheating scum, such and such player and things like that. That's that's not good.
That's a horrible word, by the way. That
it's horrible.
Almost as bad as scrim.
It's terrible.
Cheating scrim.
Yeah, I hate all that. And we're knees deep into the Six Nations now, and
well, that got a bit feisty, didn't it, a couple of weeks ago?
Well, Ireland beat Wales, rightly so. They were better than us. Do you know what happened to me? Yeah. I went to the pub to watch the Italy-France game, and
this is a couple of weeks ago.
So I went to the pub to watch the Italy-France game, and all my mates. I was at a wedding on the Saturdays for the Wales-Ireland game and the England-Scotland game, and so I didn't see those games. So I went to the pub expecting some of my friends to turn up, none of which did. So I told them that it was International Have a Pint by Yourself Day and all beers were free, which of course it wasn't. But anyway, I spent the first half getting really excited at the France-Italy game because I wanted Italy to win.
They're never going to win.
Well, I know, but I thought they were winning.
Have they ever won
But because they were in. Well, they've beaten everybody bar England in the Six Nations.
Have they?
Yeah.
Italy?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've beaten Wales 3 times. Beaten Scotland 3 times as well, I think.
Well, I feel truly educated because I didn't think they'd ever won one.
But anyway, they were in white, and they were in blue, and France were in white, and I was so far away from the telly, I was just watching the action, and I kept seeing the white team score, and I was thinking, blimey, Italy, go for it, because I wanted France to lose, because then all of the big teams would have lost one game. Yeah. I got to half time, and I put a message on my mate's WhatsApp group, and I was like, God, Italy would be like 50-0 up if their kicker could kick over the posts, and they were all like, what are you on about? And then as I went to the loo and I got closer to the TV and I could the score line came into focus, I was like, oh, right. So I had another pint of Thatcher's and then went home.
Yeah, and then it all made sense. But he's absolutely right.
He is right.
It's best not to comment on stuff.
Yeah, that was a real long offshoot, wasn't it? Yeah, you're right, Andy. I agree with you totally. My wife always says to me, keep your powder dry.
Keep your powder dry?
Yeah. I don't really know what it means, but what she means is don't say things that, are provocative.
No. And certainly don't talk about... I've seen people talking about weddings and clients.
Yeah. I mean, we do to a certain extent on here, but within the context of what we're talking about. But no negativity, no. Yeah, you got to be very careful.
Well, there was that time. Saved by the jingle. Right, disaster story. Nicola Alton. Hi Neil. Hi Kevin. Absolutely love the show. A couple of years ago, I had an X-T4 for fun and Nikon gear for everything else. I was thrilled to win a place on one of Nikon's or Nikon. Should we? I get
Nikon.
Yeah, well, so often I get then told off. Somebody said, "No, you can't. It's Nikon."
No, it's Nikon because they're a Japanese company. They're not an American company.
So how do they say it in Japan?
Right.
Well, you go there enough.
Yeah, but I don't go
they
to
say
Nikon.
Yeah, but
maybe they will say Nikon.
Well, in the meetings, do they discuss Nikon or anything like that? No. Oh, okay.
Not that I'd be able to say.
No.
No, I'm sure it's Nikon. I'd say Nikon.
Keep
say
your
Nikon.
powder dry, that's what I say.
Keep your powder dry.
Yeah. I was thrilled to win a place on one of Nikon school days out to Northumberland. First stop, the lighthouse at Whitley Bay. I began to mount my D7-100 along with my barely used 8 to 16mm on the tripod. I think I hear the click of the quick release plate. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Take my hand away and watch as my camera tumbled in slow motion along the path and straight under the railing into the sea. I screamed and ran down to the sea. The camera had landed on a little ledge. That's a bit like the Australian one we had a few weeks ago. I waded in though to get it. It was wet. The Nikon team, well, it was in the water. The team were very good and lent me some more kit for the day, but I did cry, especially as I'd taken all my Nikon things off of my insurance the month before as I was using the Fuji. Oh God. Next day I traded in all the Nikon gear and came home with a new Fuji 1655 and 5140. I've increased the insurance and double-checked my tripod. I'm very happy with my now vast collection of Fuji gear. Looking forward to the next podcast. So it's kind of an all's well that ends well story again, then, isn't it? Right, send in your disasters to click@fujicast.co.uk. And that's it for another. What are you doing? You're in another world.
I'm reading about the coronavirus.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't start thinking about that as well. One thing at a time. That's it for this week. Thank you to our guest Gabrielle Motola for her time, and also yours. Back next week with a very, very special episode.
Yes.
It's kind of a hush-hush. What's the first rule about Hush-Hush Club? You can't talk about Hush-Hush Club.
No.
But you kind of know what we're going to be talking about, don't you, really?
It's got number 4 in it.
So there we go. If you've liked this or any of the week's shows, thank you. And please, if you feel it's relevant, we'd love you to leave a review. Not all podcast apps have a review option or feature, but those that do, especially Apple Podcasts, this really helps us reach like-minded folk and builds a community, which helps keep us in this year's seats. See you in the Facebook group for any questions you may have about today's show. And do keep sending those questions in. I haven't said this for a few weeks, but your questions, remember, are...
They're the life of the show.
Yeah, 65 people at the recent... Oh, have you thought any more about the X-Weddings thing?
I've thought a lot more about it.
Yeah, any...
The X-Weddings likelihood-a-thon thermometer arrowy pointy thing is going a little bit more to the left than it was.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the reverse here. Does that look like... Is that a good way or a bad way?
It's going a bit more back towards possibly, away from absolutely not.
Oh, right, so it's on a possibly scale now, is it?
Not quite on possibly, but it's heading that way.
All right, okay.
We'll see what happens.
Our music is on Blue Wednesday. We're supporting music from the incredible artlist.io. And if you'd like to see our offerings, there is one page to go to now.
Kevin and Neil have their own websites, but I thought it would be easier to give you one website address with all the links you could possibly ever need. www.fujicast.co.uk/the boys.
See you next week for a very special episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And now the bits that didn't make the show.
2. Kev, that is the biggest camera I have. Oh, hang on. Press the record. Ooh, start again. That would have been a disaster. Disaster, darling. Kev, that is the... You were worse. Right, moving on. I've got a man. Stop snorting, man. And that's the end of the show for this week. Music.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.